Hi, and welcome back to our series where we are, us here at Spanish and Portuguese Review. We are interviewing our faculty board members, experts in peer review, lots of experience in publishing in academia and peer review. So we are interviewing our faculty board to ask them about their processes, their insight, their advice. And today we are interviewing Edurne Beltran de Heredia Carmona. And Edurne graduated with an MA in Spanish from Washington State University in 2016, her PhD in Spanish from Arizona State University in 2021, and a month after she started as an assistant professor of Spanish, tenure track, at Coastal Carolina University. Congratulations. There, Edurne directs the program in Spanish for the health professions, and she also teaches courses related to her own research, which is Afro-Spanish literature, with a particular focus on Equatorial Guinea. Edurne also researches photography, social media, and graphic novel production from Spain, with a special interest in migrant population in Spain and women and gender studies. Edurne's path at SPR, Spanish and Portuguese Review, started in 2016 as an associate editor and peer reviewer. Then in 2019, she became managing editor of copy editing and recently stepped up as faculty board member. So thank you again for being here. We have send a huge welcome to you, and we'll just hop right into our first question, which is basically about your process. So what is your process for reviewing a scholarly paper or manuscript, and how much time does it take you?
Well, first of all, thank you, Lillian. It's a pleasure. Thank you for your introduction. And thank you for having me today. So what is the process for reviewing? Well, first I read the whole article, just thinking as if that article has already been published. Okay, so the article, I just read the article, the whole thing. And then of course, the second reading, I'm gonna have a better idea of what's going on at the beginning and the introduction, and as I work through that article, because sometimes I feel if I just start giving suggestions or finding corrections or trying to give feedback from the beginning without having read the end, I may just make a mistake and have to go back again, because maybe something I feel it's missing is somehow included towards the end of the article. And then, well, how much time I take? Well, it depends on the article. It's always easier if I'm familiar with, easier in the sense of I feel I'm more comfortable in giving suggestions, in suggesting other authors they can cite or they can quote. So that can maybe take me a longer time, but it's always for a positive mission, right? If I'm not familiar with the article, with the field, if it's an article in linguistics maybe, or which is not really my area, then it probably will take me less time because I really have less to say. So it depends on the article. Some articles are really, really very well done, and I'm like, oh wow, this person can go places. Yeah, so then I guess it depends on the article. I would say I can spend around maybe one afternoon or one morning with each of them. And sometimes I just leave it for some time and then I go back and then I find different things to suggest. So it depends, a few hours, I would say.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for sharing that. I really think it's important what you said, what you highlighted, to at least take 2 full passes of reading the article, to read it just to get your mind kind of wrapped around what you're talking about, and then go through a second time, because I think that something I've experienced as a younger peer reviewer is wanting to start giving feedback right away. But what you said, I think, is really key, to do a second pass through to see if something you were thinking about is mentioned perhaps towards the end or something. Yeah, well, thank you for highlighting that. So the next perspective we shift to in regards to the questions are your position, for example, being on an editorial board. So what do you look for or prioritize when you're reviewing a paper to decide whether you accept as is, accept with revisions, or do not accept? And then that second part, which we can come back to too after we finish, what is one do or don't piece of advice you would give to a graduate student submitting an article for potential publication?
Okay, great. Good question. So the first, okay, let's go first with the first part.
Yes.
First thing first. I would say if the article actually completes or fulfills the author's intention, okay? Because sometimes the author in the introduction or the abstract says, this is what I'm gonna write in my article, right? But does actually the person fulfill that? Is the person actually including things that are unrelated, things that don't add anything to what the author wants to say? So that's really important for any journal, of course, for any article, and the article actually mentions what the author said or what the author promised he would say.
Yeah.
And then also, I think it's really important that authors need to understand and graduate students need to understand that the articles is not, when they finish an article, all the research is not done only in that article. The article needs to have future direction. So what is this article adding to the field? How is this article gonna be useful for other scholars in the future when they read it or when they research about the same area, right? So I think it's important to actually somehow towards the end mention, or I mean, it's kind of difficult to kind of like include it there and read it between lines, you know, something like, well, in the future, this is missing, so somebody will have to continue doing that. So I think that, I mean, please don't quote me on that, okay? But, you know, to actually the article needs to be useful for the future, right? If everything is closed or everything is completed in the article, that doesn't really speak really well about the article. So that's something like to me is really important. Okay. Also, and this is connected with the second part of the question you asked me. The author needs to peer review himself or herself or themselves, okay? And something I strongly suggest is to not procrastinate, okay, as much as you can, and to not do the final writing the night before the due date, okay? We have all of us have been there. I mean, and whoever says no, it's lying, okay? So, but please, no, honestly, like, yes, try to finish the article, I would say maybe 10 days before the due date, if possible, or even before that. And then leave it for a few days, like I would say like 3-4 days, forget about the article and then go back and read it again yourself. You're gonna find so many MLA corrections, spellings, things that you are repeating, things like that you are like, oh my God, did I write this? Is that me? Yeah, so yes, it's you, okay? And please, yourself then edit those details, because I think as a peer reviewer, I mean, I have been reviewing articles for a few years, and I can tell who actually took the time to work on the spelling, to work on spacing, the italics, all of those things, and who did not take the time. So, and that is, I mean, make it easier for the reviewer, I would say. So if a person just is submitting whatever they did the night before, we're gonna feel, and then there are also other corrections, that's probably a red flag and it's gonna be not accepted or accepted with many revisions or something like that. So, but yes, I would say around the things, also the originality of the article as well. And that's also really important. I mean, I know some areas maybe are not that original, we can say, or that innovative, which is still fine. But what are you adding with your article? What are you saying? Make sure somebody else didn't say the same thing before you did. Because I mean, I remember especially one case when I was like, well, I've read this. I mean, somebody else is saying this or has said this already, and you actually did not mention this person. So I remember in my feedback, which I accepted the article with revisions, I mentioned, please read this article of this, or read the research of this scholar. And I remember the author didn't do the correction and never send the article again. Because, because probably she or he just noticed like, oh my God, like I'm just saying what somebody else already said. So, yeah.
Well, that is good advice. And I want to kind of tease out a couple of really important things that you've brought up. Thank you for sharing all of your insight here. I have been coached in my own experience and other colleagues of mine too, to definitely do what you say about, you have to have a future direction section to your page. But what you said, I think really added a unique element to not only where is this research that you're doing, where is that going? Like in the future, I want to do this, I want to explore this. But I think what you said about presenting it in a way that can help other researchers too, like I think that's really important. And I hadn't really thought about it that clearly in that way yet. So this research I've done, I could move it forward in this way, but it could also contribute to research here. You could take it for this, and opening it up to a larger discussion in the field. I think that's a really important point. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and also, sorry, one thing I'm remembering, it's also very important that the authors need to think who they are writing for, right?
Yeah.
So is this article going to be written for a wider audience? Do you want everybody to be able to read it, whether they are in the academia or not? Or do you just want, I don't know, your closest friends to be able to read it? Because yeah, or you just want nobody to understand what you're saying. I don't know. I mean, to me, it's important that because my own field with minorities and Equatorial Guinea and Afro-Spanish literature is kind of advocacy. Okay, honestly, somehow it's connected to politics, right? I'm right about this because I want to make people aware of what's going on today.
Yeah.
So to me, it's important that there is more people than just in academia or scholars to be able to understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think it's also a really important thing. Who do you want to write it for? If your article is, I don't know, another field that is just not that much of advocacy or a political ideas, and maybe you just want to keep it closer, which is fine. But I think it's a good idea to have in mind who are you writing it for.
Yeah, at least be intentional about it and know that going into it. That's a really good point.
And sometimes, I mean, don't take it to the other extreme, which is be super vocal and super political and super strong in your ideas, because we are not doing journalism or we are not advocating at a rally or something like that. And I know, I mean, some reviewers can take it against your ideas. So I would say be as polite as possible because you don't want to be so polemic in your writing. So I think also that's important, to lower your energy a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I like how you mentioned be polite a little bit. And I think that applies. And let me know what you think about this. Be polite in your writing. Yes. Advocate for your point and everything, but also be polite when you're responding to peer review or feedback, right?
Yes. I mean, so far I haven't really encountered any issues with those things. I mean, and even if I had, it's not something I really, I mean, it's my job as a reviewer to review articles. If somebody disagrees with my, I mean, yes, I've seen, let me see, I've seen people disagreeing with the with the suggestions or the feedback I gave. But at the end, it's their article. I mean, I do it with my best of intentions, and it's the reviews. I think your article deserves to be as polite and to be as complete as possible. If you just want to write something that will not help in the future, I mean, that's on you then.
Yeah.
And it's also not, it's also, oh, sorry. It's also not only my reviews, but when it comes from 3 or 4 or 5 reviewers that are pointing the same thing, maybe it's something to consider, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think it's good to feel free to that an author can disagree with feedback, but to just do it in a polite way, like you were mentioning. I think that's really important. Thanks, Edurne. And so the final kind of part of, doesn't have to be the final, but the last question that I had prepared was, so in regards to professional development, so you had noted that, peer review is a job. It is part of a lot of different positions. It's also often a volunteer position, and you're kind of just doing it because you want to support the field. And you can learn a lot of skills and you can gain a lot of different experience and skills. while you peer review. So what are some of the main benefits from the process of reviewing papers, reading, the review, the notes, the feedback, all of that?
Yeah, great question. Well, I remember when I was a grad student, it was so beneficial and I loved reviewing, and I was always telling the editor, please send me more articles if you have any. So I would always volunteer, be an extra volunteer, right? Because I like reading from different styles, different wording, how they phrase some ideas. So I think that was really beneficial as a grad student. Yeah, so I mean, selfishly, I learned a lot. I was able to read different styles, to see how they phrase different ideas, to see how some ideas actually existed for in some people's mind. Because I would be reviewing I don't know, an article about a novel that I've read, for example, and I'm like, oh, I never thought about this or that idea. So I mean, selfishly, I got so many so many great ideas, and that exposure was excellent. Now as a faculty, I mean, I am on the other side now. So now I see things differently because I have students who are working on the research under my direction. Oh my God, poor them when I think about this. And so it was very beneficial to learn how to help, okay? To learn how to give feedback, to learn how to teach them to be critical with themselves and with their own work, and to actually not be disappointed when the work needs to be done in their articles or in their research posters or something like that. So being a reviewer for SPR has been I mean, so enriching in so many different ways. But I would say that the best thing I've learned it's been to be able to know how to help, and how to give feedback, how to always keep working, and to understand that there is no perfect article, that all articles need work, all articles could be better, all articles could be worse as well. You know? I've come to terms with that, which is a huge step as a scholar and as a professor, and I think everybody could probably say the same, even if maybe somebody is not honest and their articles are perfect, no, but okay, mine are not. And also to be comfortable with reading your own work, which is something. I mean, now when I go back at something that I've written, I was like, oh my God, that's not me. No, in Spanish there is a song that says "Esa no soy yo," so that's why I feel no, oh, that wasn't me. But yes, it was you, no. And in your earlier stage, you have a style that progressively develops and improves, and that's what academy is about, no? Nobody, when they graduate right after the PhD, can write perfect articles and books and start. I mean, if somebody is out there, great, that's not me. So I think SPR anyway, in many cases, I could say many examples, but it's been so beneficial, and I'm so grateful I had this opportunity. I'm so grateful I emailed Corey so many years ago, like 7 or 8 years ago, and say, hey, Corey, do you have work for me?
Awesome.
And here I am still.
That's so great. Thank you for sharing that. I have a lot of reactions to what you're saying, but I think one of the main points I'm sort of drawing away is this sort of like continued flow of collaboration and learning together. So just how you left off talking about how you emailed Corey 7 years ago, hey, do you have any work for me? Then you moved through all these positions. You know, you were an AE and a peer reviewer, then a managing editor, and now you're faculty, and you're still paying it forward, all of the skills that you developed and learned as an associate editor. Now you're helping your own students, probably still developing your own practice. I think that's so beneficial in SPR. I started as an associate editor too. I've done several peer reviews, and now I'm in this managing editor position role too. So it is kind of, I love to see that cycle of how we help each other. And here you are helping us and our audience and other grad students still. So yeah, it's really a collaborative environment to be in. So I appreciate you highlighting that.
Of course, and something I would say to all grad students, no matter the field, no matter the area, language, is send that article to publish. Send that. That article is fine, okay? I'm telling you, that article is fine. Because, I mean, I've met dozens of grad students. I've mentored grad students in publishing or in academia, in the job market, especially at different organizations, and all of them always tell me the same. Oh, I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel happy with my article. But why not? Why not? I mean, that's another thing. Reviewers, we have read everything, okay? We have read everything. So don't worry. I mean, if the article is actually really like, no, that's fine. I mean, a few days later, I'm gonna forget about it. Trust me, for real. It's not that I'm gonna remember your article forever. No, not at all. We've read everything. We are used to receiving articles, giving feedback, and then worst case scenario, your article is gonna get rejected, and you're gonna have a list of corrections. You're gonna have a list of corrections, suggestions, and then hopefully you work on those, and then it's gonna be published. I mean, if there is ever a scholar who has never had an article rejected, that person hasn't sent many articles to publish.
That's a really good point. I think just even the feedback, like you said, even if it doesn't get published, maybe it wasn't a good fit or something, but you will get feedback. That's, the whole team of peer reviewers are specifically there to help with that. And so if it doesn't get published, then that's okay. At least you're going to learn and develop some skills. I think that's a really valuable point you made.
My first article got rejected right away. And the comments, really, and the comments were terrible. And I got sad. Of course I was, but that wasn't the end of it. I never worked on that because I was so bad that actually I just had to rewrite the whole thing. So I just worked on other articles and it worked. So I mean, it's never the end of it. It's gonna be other articles, other ideas. Sometimes it's just a no, and then other ones they get accepted just the way they are, which is also surprising, no? But yes, send the articles. All grad students, please send the articles. It's fine. Don't be terrified. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. And many times you're gonna see that your article is actually better than you expected.
Which can be empowering too.
Yeah, sometimes when working with grad students and they send me the articles, I'm like, well, this is fine. Well, why are you so afraid? It's just sitting on your desk or on your drawer for 4 months. No, you send the article.
Okay, send the article. I'll take it.
Send the article. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's the last question I had prepared for you today. Do you have anything else that you would like to add to our audience, or anything else before we close up our conversation?
Well, not really. I think in general, we spoke about everything I had in mind in general. But yes, I would suggest to the authors to actually if they can do a first review with their own friends, maybe like share the articles before you submit it to a journal. Here in my department, as faculties, we don't have grad students in my department. So faculty, we sometimes do meetings, and then we present the articles to the group of colleagues, and then we read the articles. And then you get ideas, and so I think if you have the chance to do that, to share your article with somebody else before you submit it, and then to have some ideas also, maybe work with more senior grad students in your department, because hopefully they have more experience. So I think that would be a great dynamic that you can have. But I'm trying to think if something else. Yes, well, that's another point about what do I look for in an article to be accepted as it is or not. Sometimes some articles, if I start giving feedback and more feedback and reorder paragraphs and erase sentences, erase paragraph, I mean, at some point I realize I am rewriting the article for that author. So if that is the case, that is a no-no.
That is a really important point. Yeah.
If the reviewer is rewriting your article, it's a no. Or if the feedback is rewrite the article, then it's a no. I remember a few years ago, there was an article that needed to be written again, and then that was my feedback, and that person actually wrote the article again, and the following year I found the same article, and it was published.
There you go. Very good.
That one. Yeah.
Cool. I think that's a really important point to end on. And this has been so insightful, and I'm sure many graduate students and scholars and just our community will be really grateful for your insight, for your tips. I know I was. So thank you so much for your time, Edurne, and all that you do for SPR and our community and graduate students and faculty, and thank you very much.
No, of course, Lillian, thank you. It was a pleasure to talk to you and to remember my time in SPR. That was very nice.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you.